7:24 in Trinidad and Tobago. It was just a week ago that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee held their annual awards ceremony, and emerging as the top performers, cyclist Nicholas Paul and sprinter Michelle Lee Ahi. No surprise that they earned the top honours. Like most things during the pandemic, 2021 was a challenging one for sport, including the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, the delayed Olympic Games. What's on the agenda for the TTOC this year? We're joined by Brian Lewis as we look ahead to 2022 and beyond. Brian, very good morning to you. You don't look as tired as you usually look, especially during the time of the Tokyo Olympics. No doubt you have to be refreshed for the Trinidad and Tobago International Marathon at the end of the month. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, and let me first wish you, your family, everyone at TV6, One Media, and all your viewers, best wishes for 2022. The glass is not half empty.
Indeed. I mean, you're always a positive individual in that regard. And since we're talking about the glass being half full, tell us about looking at 2022 and some of the major things we can look forward to from an Olympic Committee's involvement point of view.
Well, yes, we have, the big ticket items, so to speak. We have the Beijing Winter Olympic Games coming up in February, 4th of February to the 20th, and we are all waiting anxiously for the January 16th deadline for qualification, when it will be confirmed if the red, white, and black Team TTO bobsled will return to the Winter Olympics for the first time since 2022. Enough credit to the pilot Axel Brown, who would have gotten his documents via his mother, being a Trinbagonian, but he, to be honest, was originally in the British bobsleigh program, so he's not a neophyte by any means, and he had put together a good package. Then after that we have, well, it's ongoing from our perspective, besides the sport industry TT, which is held at its usual time, first Thursday in March, 3rd of March. You just mentioned the marathon walk, which is a significant event for us in terms of raising awareness and funding for the Team TTO 10 Goal by 2024 Athlete Welfare and Preparation Fund. And then after that, we have, from the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee's perspective, the Birmingham Commonwealth Games. And all of these will be in the COVID environment. But it's going to be a lot of excitement, I think, for Trinidad and Tobago, with our athletes using the general sense, building on the momentum gained post-Olympics. You have the track cycling world championship, the track and field world championship. You have the FINA Long Course World Championship in May. So while those events are not specifically under the remit of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee and the Trinidad and Tobago Commonwealth Games, they have keen interest for us because, a lot of the athletes, swimmers, cyclists have also on their programs the Commonwealth Games, which is a significant event. But the Caribbean Games, the first ever Caribbean Games, is one that we have particular interests with at the level of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, and in my perspective, CANA, the Caribbean Association of National Olympic Committees.
You think the Caribbean Games will go ahead? Because we all recall...
But it's pressing ahead with it, yes. I must say that every effort, the Guadeloupe organizing committee are very committed, of course, with the always evolving COVID situation. It's always a challenge. It presents challenge even for the well-resourced professional leagues and the IOC and Beijing. But we have to live with COVID. And
Brian, there are many different areas we can go to in talking about the sporting landscape of Trinidad and Tobago. But just this thing with the bobsleigh, there will always be a level of cynicism that, this is some expat who finds some connection and being able to get a free ride via TNT to an Olympic Games and so on. But is this something that we could actually build on? Because sprinting power and that sort of activity is important in bobsleigh and many other winter sports and so on. It doesn't seem to be a natural fit, Brian, but is this something we could actually build on in developing a sporting culture in that area?
Well, we would have been to the Winter Olympic Games under Gregory's son, who really gave it his best in 1994, 1998, and 2002. And now Axel Brown has taken up the mantle from Gregory Son, and he stayed very committed. As a matter of fact, he has put together a group that involves the John brothers from Trinidad and Tobago, young sprinters, another guy, Macano, and the group that he's currently working with. This is Axel Brown, and he has brought some significant experience and technical and competence in terms of his support team. It also includes former summer Olympian Michael Thomas, which is something the US would have done, and Canada, Laurel Williams, most notably, someone with Trinidad and Tobago connection, would have also medaled at the in Jamaica. So I think the answer yes. Now, especially with so many Trinbagonians in the diaspora, you'd have seen a couple of years ago with Abigail Vera, bona fide. Axel Brown, his mother, he grew up in his parents, his father worked in Texaco, Pointe-a-Pierre. So, he is qualified as far, and he meets the tick box as far as the IOC and the International Bobsleigh Federation is concerned in terms of availability of passports. So we'll see how it goes at this point. He seems very committed to building a bobsleigh program, embracing the reality of our sprinting prowess as Jamaica. In fact, Jamaica now have 3 different teams going: mono, 2-person, and 4-person. So,
Yes, and as we take it to the other level, the grassroots level, you just used the phrase embracing the reality. I believe that was the phrase that you used. Are we hesitant in embracing the reality of this COVID-19 environment to try to not allow our youngest and maybe our brightest prospects from simply losing out on their opportunities to develop their skills in sport? Can we allow, for example, people to crowd up on the beaches between 5 and 12 and say you can't come out on the field and play a bit of sport?
Well, from the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee perspective and the Olympic and Commonwealth sports movement, we continue to work with all our affiliate members in crafting proposals and what we call return to play. We accept and acknowledge that vaccination is a critical component. It's the way the world of global sport is going. So that's an important tool. The challenge, it would appear, is that, for example, now with the Omicron, even globally, where the professional leagues have been able to spend millions and tens of millions behind testing, contract tracing, and COVID countermeasures, Omicron has sort of upset that. So while, for example, I may have been very optimistic before Omicron hit that we would, for sure, be able to get going again, Omicron has put a little setback on that. We'll see how it goes.
I hear you.
I think that is important. We keep advocating and we keep providing the authorities and the decision makers with the necessary plans and that, yes, we could do this safely. We meaning the National Sporting Organization in the organized competition and leagues, be it secondary school, be it pro league, be it ascension, be it football, cricket, rugby. But of course, some of the contact sports, there is an issue based on the science and the reality of COVID and how COVID, it's human to human transmission. So that there are very real issues that present some challenges. I think that people look at, okay, so you have the sweat and the recreational aspect, but we will keep pressing. I think we have to remain positive. Is no longer necessarily a good word, but we have to remain optimistic.
I hear you with that, but where is the dial going? Because, I suppose at the very start, early 2020, it was lockdown and it is how it is. But why I'm pressing this issue, Brian, and if you would forgive me for doing so, is that you're talking about children, maybe 3, 4, 5 years old, or maybe even those who would have been looking forward to their age group national representation, and that has disappeared, that has gone. So where do you see the dial going as far as saying, like, look, this is maybe a measurable risk that you could say, because the social consequences of children and they're developing those social skills and physical activity, are we to say that yes, safety and health is so paramount that these children are going to be locked in their homes for the foreseeable future?
Well, I think, for example, you look at the question of primary and secondary school level, because that's the foundation, right? That level. If you take primary and secondary school, and you look at the challenges in terms of getting schools back out, for us to have school activities, given tutor and all the different positions at play, it's really, in my view, it's not a simple solution. At what point do we, as you say, have confidence in the risk mitigation countermeasures that will be put in place? I really believe that we can, because I think that the national sporting organizations, the leagues, they are responsible, and I think that once there is clarity in terms of what is required to get back on the field or in the halls, and then it's about implementing that and measuring it. Of course, the challenge will be who funds it, but I totally support and agree the position that we can't continue to just roll over and allow generations to just disappear. And that's the reality. We all know it in sport that a number of talented athletes have become demotivated, mental health issue, and some of them have gone for good. You're not going to be able to get them back. So it is a significant challenge in the environment of fear that COVID-19 has created. But the TTOC, as you realize, we continue going out into the COVID-19 cauldron, regardless of the fact that there are those who are who have criticized it, who have said it is madness. And of course, there are risks, and vaccination is very important.
Indeed it is. And in the time that we have available, Brian, I mean, I believe this is your final term as president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee. But in your time and involvement in sport administration, you've been very critical of our NSOs, our national sporting organizations, and their ability to organize themselves effectively and basically provide a proper platform for our young people, especially to fulfill their dreams and aspirations. Have you seen an improvement at all, even in this time of COVID-19?
To be very honest, I think that COVID-19 has set it back. I mean, while yes, criticism is a word that could be used, I think how I prefer to say it is that I've tried to encourage them to be more entrepreneurial, more proactive, to take the initiative. Let's not sit back and wait for, whether it is government, whether it is private sector, whether it is whoever. We should have confidence in the product, the service, and the power of sport to make a positive difference, to be able to go out there and say, this is what we can do. So at times, our athletes have been much more brave and courageous and flexible and adaptable and innovative than us administrators. And, COVID-19 has exposed and heightened and amplified the weaknesses in that regard, because a lot of us are sitting back and waiting for a knight in shining armor, and that's not going to happen. We have to take the bull by the horn.
We certainly have to, and it is really a tremendous challenge that we're facing. But Brian Lewis, we want to thank you as always for taking the time, and indeed for you to get back into training for the TNT International Marathon, for the walk on January 30th, as you've reminded me.
Yes, from 3:30 a.m. from St. Mary's Junction, Freeport, the TTOC's group, subject to COVID-19 countermeasures as we did last year. We will be doing the traditional marathon route on the traditional day, which is the first Sunday in January.
The fourth Sunday in January.
The fourth Sunday. Thanks for the correct. And before you go, let me slip in a question for you and your viewers, right? We have a special running where first person, so there's a trivia question. Who was the third president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee? One. And the second question is, what day and year did the International Olympic Committee officially recognize the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee? Send in your answers to TTOC.
Okay, so
and,
who was the
first one that comes in will get a courtesy Puma, an official TTOC team wear package.
Right. So who was the third president of the TTOC, and on what day and year was the TTOC officially recognized by the International Olympic Committee?
Correct.
First correct answers to the TTOC.
Right. Yes, it has been running before.
Okay.
But we have winners. But I'm giving you and TV6 viewers an opportunity to get a beautiful and treasured official TTOC, Team TTO, Puma wear package.
Brian Lewis, we thank you for that. I didn't know we were so big in the dance. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to be with us this morning.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Brian Lewis, always a pleasure having a chat with him about things sporting in Trinidad and Tobago and beyond. Let's take a short break at 7:40 and then we'll return.